Hello and welcome. If you're here, you're probably looking for clear, practical information about autism. Maybe you're a parent with questions, or maybe you're an adult reflecting on your own life experiences. Whatever your reason, I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk as if we're sitting at the kitchen table, discussing what autism is, the signs to look for in babies, children, and adults, and what steps you can take next. So, let's start with the basics. What is autism? Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition. This means it affects how a person's brain develops and works. People with autism often experience the world differently, especially in two main areas: social communication and interaction, and in their behaviors and interests. For social communication, this might mean differences in how they talk, understand nonverbal cues like body language, or build relationships. For behaviors and interests, you might see a strong need for routines, repetitive movements, or very deep, focused interests in specific topics. It's called a spectrum because autism looks different in every single person. There's no one-size-fits-all description. Now let's look at what you might notice in the very first year of a baby's life. Keep in mind, these signs on their own are not a diagnosis, but they are cues to pay attention to and discuss with your pediatrician. One of the earliest things you might observe is little or no eye contact. The baby may not look at faces or hold a steady gaze. You might also notice they rarely smile back at you. We're talking about those social smiles that show a shared moment of joy, not just a random smile. Games like peekaboo might not get much of a reaction. Another sign can be a lack of response to their name by around 6 to 9 months. You call their name, and there's no head turn, no glance in your direction. Pay attention to their babbling, too. Is there limited babbling, or have they stopped making sounds they used to make? This is sometimes called a loss of skills or regression. Babies with early signs of autism might also show less interest in shared games. They may not point at things to show you, or bring you a toy to share their excitement. Instead of looking back and forth between you and an object, their attention might be more solitary. Finally, notice their reactions to sensory input. They might be unusually sensitive to sounds, lights, or touch. Or, on the other hand, they might seem unresponsive to things like a loud noise. You might also see early repetitive movements, like hand flapping, rocking, or an intense focus on just one part of a toy, like spinning a wheel over and over, rather than playing with the toy as a whole. If you notice several of these signs together, it's a good reason to bring it up at your next well-child checkup. As children grow into toddlers and school-age kids, the signs of autism often become clearer and more related to how they communicate, play, and learn. In terms of social and communication signs, you might notice delayed speech or unusual language patterns. For example, a child might repeat phrases they've heard, which is called echolalia. Their tone of voice might be flat or robotic, and they may struggle with the back-and-forth flow of a conversation. Pretend play can be a challenge. They might have difficulty joining in with other children, or seem to prefer playing alone. It's not that they don't want friends, but they might struggle to understand others' feelings or not know how to initiate play. Then there are the behavior and sensory signs. A strong need for routine is very common. A small change, like taking a different route to the store, can be very upsetting. Repetitive behaviors often become more obvious, like lining up toys in a perfect row, flapping their hands when excited or distressed, or spinning objects. Sensory differences can also be very apparent. This might look like being a very picky eater because of food textures, being distressed by the sound of a vacuum cleaner, or, conversely, seeking out a lot of sensory input, like spinning, crashing, or deep pressure. When it comes to learning, some autistic children have a different learning profile. They might have incredible strengths in certain areas, like memory or visual skills, while facing challenges in others, like social problem-solving or abstract language. Early support can make a huge difference in helping them build on their strengths and navigate their challenges. Now, what about autism in adults? Sometimes the signs are more subtle, especially if the person has spent their life learning to mask or hide their autistic traits to fit in. This is particularly common in women, who are often diagnosed later in life. An autistic adult might find social interactions exhausting. They may struggle to read body language, understand sarcasm, or keep a conversation going. It can feel like everyone else got a rulebook for socializing that they missed. Sensory overload is another major factor. Crowds, bright fluorescent lights, or the background noise in a busy cafe can feel overwhelming and physically painful. To cope, many autistic adults rely heavily on routines. Unexpected changes can cause significant distress and anxiety. They might also have very focused, intense interests. These passions can be a huge source of joy and expertise, and often become strengths in their personal or professional lives. If you're an adult and you recognize a lifelong pattern of these social and sensory differences in yourself, seeking an evaluation can be incredibly validating and life-changing. It can provide answers and a new framework for understanding yourself. So, if you or your child receives an autism diagnosis, what comes next? It's important to know there is no cure for autism, because it's not a disease to be cured. It's a fundamental part of who a person is. However, there are many evidence-based supports that can improve skills, independence, and overall quality of life. For children, early intervention is key. This can include therapies like speech and language therapy, which helps with all forms of communication, from words to gestures. Occupational therapy, or OT, is fantastic for helping with daily living skills like dressing and eating, as well as managing sensory processing needs. You might also hear about behavioral approaches like applied behavior analysis, or ABA, which uses structured learning to teach new skills. It is a therapy that families should research to decide if the approach is right for their child. Social skills groups can also be a wonderful way for kids to practice interacting with peers in a safe, supportive environment. For people of all ages, sensory supports are crucial. This can be as simple as creating predictable routines, scheduling quiet breaks throughout the day, or using tools like noise-reducing headphones or fidget toys to help self-regulate. An occupational therapist can provide tailored strategies to make triggering environments more manageable. In a school setting, accommodations are essential. In the U.S., this often means an individualized education plan, or IEP, which can provide for things like speech services, extra time on tests, or access to a quiet space. Visual schedules and clear routines are also incredibly helpful for many autistic students, as they make transitions and expectations much clearer. Finally, don't forget about family and emotional support. Parent training programs can teach strategies for managing behaviors and reduce stress at home. It's also vital to encourage and nurture an autistic person's strengths. Those intense interests can blossom into amazing hobbies, academic pursuits, or even careers. And since co-occurring conditions like anxiety and depression are common, access to mental health care is incredibly important. Noticing possible signs of autism in yourself or a loved one can feel overwhelming, but please know you are not alone. For many families, getting information, seeking an evaluation, and connecting with support services brings a sense of relief and a clear path forward. Autism is simply a different way of experiencing and interacting with the world. It comes with its challenges, but it also comes with unique strengths and perspectives. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.